So today I'm going to talk about the integrative framework for blockchain implementation, uniting organizational, business, and engineering factors. That's what we are trying to make. We are trying to combine all the factors together so we can make sure that this framework is integrative enough to be combined and implemented and also adopted in different technologies or in different sectors. Today we're going to have a background about blockchain, like a history and the applications. Also, we'll be talking about the introduction, giving some introductory topics, and talking about the research approach. I'm going to talk about qualitative research which has been done to review some of the articles, and we will be talking and discussing the factors which are affecting the adoption of blockchain technology. Also, we'll be discussing the conceptual framework design for analyzing blockchain technology. And at the end, I'm going to give you a summary of what we have achieved. At the very beginning, blockchain has been started from 2009 and around 2011. It was just like a foundation, just based, and everyone is now being trying to understand the concept of blockchain. And from the point to 2012 and 13, so we start to understand the concept of cryptocurrency or cryptographers. That was the first time that we heard about this term before. And from 2014, 2015, we started to get more updates. And from 2017 until 2020, we're now working on the adoption, how to adopt the blockchain into industry. So all the studies have been mainly focusing on the technical aspects of technologies, only architecture and the way it is functioning. But they haven't been discussing um, the adoption of the blockchain in health sector or in any critical sector. In this study, our proposed framework is going to work on the adoption of the blockchain technology in other critical infrastructures, and it's supposed to be considering different factors such as organizational, business, engineering factors. What do we mean by organizational? We're talking about the institutional or the companies itself. What are the procedures that they need to follow in order to make sure the adoption is maintained properly? Also, we're talking about the business. Business means the e-market. What market needs, the requirements of the market. How can we attract more businesses? Also about the engineering factors. When we talk about the engineering factors, we're talking about the technicalities. What can be considered or what can be included to make sure that this framework is technically built properly. Also, the proposal which has been proposed in this article can be implemented by organization as a point of reference for adopting different applications of blockchain so that scholars or scientists can work further to expand the study and refine as well as carry future research in this point of domain. So what I'm trying to do now, I'm trying to give a point of reference so professionals or people from industry can work more in that to expand this research in the future. In the introduction, we're going to discuss the blockchain applications. As you can see from this figure, we've got different sectors, like for example, digital currency, fraud reduction, and record keeping, security, smart contracts. What do I mean by digital currency? We're talking about the e-commerce, global payments, remittance, point-to-point lending, microfinance. Also, in the record keeping, loyalty programs, supply chains, ownership, proof of identity, intellectual property. It's like a mix of records that can be stored in one place. Also, we're talking about the security. Securities like, for example, the private markets, the equity, the debit, the crowdfunding, the derivative. Also, the last one, which is smart contract. We're talking about the digit sprites, gambling, escrow. So all of these sectors can be covered in only three different types: organizational, business, engineering. Organizational can be a part of record keeping. Business can be considered as digital currency. engineering can be considered in the smart contract and securities. My research approach for this research based on a number of articles that have been reviewed in order to provide all the gaps, all the challenges, all the issues. Also, that was based on qualitative data analysis because working in such research, we wouldn't be able to provide the quantitative data. So we found that qualitative data analysis was to provide insight to the study and helps in understanding the topic in a better way. Also, the review provided the research with many numbers of factors that should be considered by the organization at the same time, raising as the most important questions. So we can identify how this particular technology can be managed in the best possible way. Also, the study makes use of the secondary data, which already has been collected by someone else and can easily be obtained from different resources. Now we will be discussing about the factors which are affecting adoption of the blockchain technology. First of all, if we are considering the organizational factor or the institutional factor, we've got three different types in this, like sub-factors: norms and cultures, regulations and legalizations, governance. For the first one, which is norms and culture, we're talking about resistance that's due to the prevalent culture, also reluctant to accept these changes, lack of proper understanding of the blockchain technology. For the second part, which is regulations and legalizations, we're talking about requires introducing new laws, needs to handle taxations, and needs to consider the nature of blockchain technology. For the third part, which is governance, we're discussing about the issues of government losing hold, making use of proper government framework, risk related to market manipulation and unfair practices. For the factors that are affecting adoption of blockchain technology, but in the business factors. For the business factors or e-market factors, we are having like three different types of subcategories. First one, which is market structure. Second one is contracts and agreements. The third one, which is business processes. The first one, market structure, is all the issues are relevant to a high degree of computerization, gives rise to a variety. Also, interconnectedness. For the second part, which is contract and agreements, we're talking about the lack of appropriate clarity on the smart contracts, confusion of the smart contracts with the e-contracts. For the third part, which is business processes, inability to apply traditional business processes, and high cost of adoption. When it comes to engineering factors or technicalities, issues of the blockchain technology, we're having three different types of these factors. First one, which is information exchange and transaction. Second one, which is distributed ledger. The third one, which is shared infrastructure. First one, issues are relevant to time required to process the transactions, which means like delay and size of the block, scalable nature, and decentralization. For the second part, which is distributing ledger, we're talking about cybercrime, we're talking about newness. For the part of cybercrime, we're talking about the aspect of having some potential digital crimes by stealing some of the sensitive information from our system. So the proposed framework was working on that part to make sure the privacy is maintained properly and based on the global standards. For the third part, which is shared infrastructure, the issue is relevant to a development of a standard infrastructure components. Here is the design of the conceptual framework for analyzing blockchain technology. The proposed framework should be the first inclusive theoretical framework demonstrating the synopsis of a key factors and key connections when taking blockchain integration into consideration. Also, the proposed framework can be utilized for administrative associations to apprehend the large range of blockchain technology. It also appears that necessity to know the link between the materiality and the factors throughout the transformation process, which initially outlines the practice of the blockchain technology. At the end, the proposed framework major focus is blockchain adoption technology by the organizations. Research done in future may focus on the adoption of technology of blockchain by the citizens. Proposed framework is conceptual and it has not been tested empirically. So the research of the future requires testing for that framework proposed in various contexts. Many factors have been identified by present studies for providing solutions to the new challenges. And research done in the future should refine and test and explore the relationships and framework expansions on the basis of practical evidence. That's the end. And thank you so much. Do you have any questions?